Legislature is called to order. Meeting was will be teleconferenced via Zoom due to the COVID-19 paramedics. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Bendet.
Here.
Mr. Burns. Mr. Casal.
Here.
Ms. Doran. Present. Mr. Fiacco. Mr. Fleming. Here. Mr. Grant. Present. Mr. Grimm.
Here.
Mr. Harrington. Ms. Hoffman.
Here.
Mr. Leverage.
Here.
Mr. Patiri.
Here.
Mr. Peter.
Here.
Mr. Tessman.
Here.
Ms. Sullivan Tita. Ms. Weaver.
Here.
Mr. Wysocki. Chairman Stammel.
Here.
There are 17 present.
Mr. Grant, invocation. Mr. Grant. Mr. Grimm, pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Bailey.
Dispense with reading of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 12, 2020, and approve minutes as printed.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Meeting agenda. Okay. Presentation of petitions.
On file.
Presentation of communications.
On file.
Reports of commissions.
On file.
Department reports.
On file.
Reports of standing committees.
On file.
Local laws.
There are none tonight.
We'll move to index or resolutions. G, 21920.
G 21920, resolution authorizing extensions of the term periods of grant agreements with the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services, Public Defender, Conflict Defender, and County Attorney, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 22020.
G 22020, resolution authorizing a lease agreement with the Spiegeltown Fire Department, Bureau of Public Safety, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 22120.
G 22120, resolution authorizing a contract for the purchase of copy, printing, paper, and supplies for county departments, Bureau of Central Services, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 22320.
G 22220 was withdrawn by sponsor.
That's right.
G 22320, resolution authorizing a change order to an existing agreement, Department of Engineering, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 22420.
G 22420, resolution authorizing the acceptance of a grant funding from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, Office of Probation and Correctional Alternatives, and amending the 2020 Rensselaer County adopted budget, Stop DWI, and Department of Probation, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
16 ayes, 1 abstention, Ms. Sullivan Tita.
So moved. G, 22520.
G 22520, resolution authorizing a contract for County Route 141, South Lake Avenue, culvert pipe replacements, Town of Brunswick Highway Department, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 22620.
G 22620, resolution authorizing adjustments of the payment of additional rent to landlord pursuant to lease, Departments of Social Services, Probation, and Youth, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question?
Or District Number 1, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 22820.
G 22820, resolution authorizing a subrecipient agreement with the Rensselaer County Housing Resources for the homeownership XI program and amending the adopted 2020 Rensselaer County Budget, Bureau of Economic Development and Planning, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 22920.
G 22920, resolution accepting grant funding from the New York State Department of Health for the Public Health Preparedness Grant and amending the 2020 adopted Rensselaer County Budget, Department of Health, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 23020.
G 23020, resolution accepting grant funding from the New York State Department of Health for the Drinking Water Enhancement Grant Program and amending the 2020 adopted Rensselaer County Budget, Department of Health, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
G, 23120.
G 23120, resolution accepting accepting additional grant funding from the New York State Department of Health for the Early Intervention Administration Grant Program, Department of Health, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 23220.
G 23220, resolution authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance 100% of the federal aid and state Marchicelli program aid eligible costs of a transportation federal aid project, County Route 68, Snyder's Corner Road Bridge replacement over the Winneskill Creek and the large culvert replacement, and amending the 2020 adopted Rensselaer County Budget Highway Department, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 23320.
G 23320, resolution accepting grant funding from the Community Foundation for the Greater Capital Region to support the Rensselaer County Heroin Coalition, amending the 2020 adopted Rensselaer County Budget, Department of Health, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 23420.
G 23420, resolution authorizing payment to NTS Data Services LLC for the printing of mandatory mail check cards for the Board of Elections, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. P, 23520.
P 23520, resolution establishing a date for a public hearing on Hudson Valley Community College budget for fiscal year 2020 through 2021, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. P, 23620.
P 23620, resolution in memoriam of John B. Jack Madden Jr., introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. P, 23720.
P
Just withdrawn.
23720 was withdrawn by sponsor.
P, 23820.
P 23820, resolution urging the New York State to stop infringing on the Second Amendment rights of New Yorkers by creating more obstacles to lawful gun ownership, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question?
Mr. Chairman? This resolution, P 23820, is, now this, a portion of this resolution is something that might seem repetitious, perhaps, to some, but in fact, the intent and the purpose to bring this resolution in front of this legislative body again isn't to be repetitious. It's to remind our state government of the implications and the infringements that the New York SAFE Act has put on legal gun owners, law-abiding citizens in the state of New York. The New York SAFE Act, which has been a complete failure in order to address gun violence in this state. It hasn't done, there has been no significant evidence to date that indicates that this process, this New York SAFE Act, has done anything to address and limit. It hasn't done a single thing to reduce crime, violence with guns. Because violence with guns, crime with guns, murder with guns is done by criminals. Criminals don't obey laws. Criminals don't care what the New York Safe Act is all about. They don't understand the first letter of that document, and nor will they ever. The process itself was faulty. It didn't go through the Assembly, it didn't go through the Senate, there was no debate, there was no discussion, there was no public forum, there was nothing but a governor's executive order to cram this thing down New York State's law-abiding citizens in the dark of the night. Now we're going to add to that. So as we remind the governor that we disapprove of this SAFE Act, the majority of this legislature, year after year after year. And it's obvious that they're not listening, because now we have a Senate Bill S 1412 that's now brought up for consideration. Again, additional rules and gun regulations that are not going to impact gun violence by criminals in the state of New York. Criminals don't obey laws. Criminals don't care about S 1412. The only one that's going to care about S 1412 is law-abiding citizens and gun owners in the state of New York. We're going to again restrict and regulate what is supposed to be a constitutional right, the right to keep and bear arms, the right for a citizen to protect themselves, their family, and their property from threats. And here we are with S 1412 that is going to, number one, require that before every rifle or shotgun purchase, there is going to be a safety. There's going to be not a safety. It's not even a safety train. It's a hunter training course that is going to have to be done by the individual interested in buying or purchasing a rifle or a shotgun for the first time. It's a hunting training course. It's 8 hours long. It happens once a year. It's difficult to get into, and it's limited to the amount of people that can attend this meeting. And this is going to be restriction to purchase a basic rifle or shotgun is absurd. 90% proficiency with this firearm. Throughout my adult life, I've handled firearms. I practice on a regular basis. I am 90% proficient, but I'm the exception. I'm not the rule. 90% proficiency? That is absurd. Absolutely absurd. To achieve 90% proficiency, it takes practice, it takes training, it takes repetition, it takes true skill in order to achieve that number. They're looking at that as being a regulation or requirement before the purchase of a firearm. Again, absurd. And we could go on and on and on. My point is, this is not repetitious. Please don't look at this as repetitious. They're worsening it, they're making it more difficult to buy and purchase firearms in the state of New York. They're making it more difficult, especially in rural areas. We don't have a 4 to 8 minute response time for an emergency 911 call. It's 30 minutes, it's 40 minutes, it's 50 minutes. 50 minutes, 4 to 8 minutes, you may actually have the opportunity to arrest a criminal in the act of a crime. 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, the only thing left after that is the investigation. The crime's already been done. There's going to be a minimum property damage. It could be assault, and it could even be murder for all intents and purposes. Who knows? The city of Troy, an entire family was brought down into their basement, tied and bound, and every single one of them was killed by murderers, criminals, over a flat screen TV. New York State government and Andrew Cuomo does not have the right to lessen my ability to protect myself from criminals. He does not have the right to lessen my ability to protect my family from being dragged down in a basement, bound, and killed with a 30, 40, or 50-minute response time from a 911 call if we were fortunate enough to make that call. I would like to ask the legislative body, all 17 members that are present today, consider agreeing with this resolution. Think about what this resolution is. Just because it says gun is not a reason to vote no on a resolution. Think about the implications. This is a God-given right. We have a constitutional right to protect ourselves. Some of us need firearms to have that security and to be able to do what could possibly, avoid a fatality. Think about the Constitution, think about the Second Amendment, think about these restrictions and regulations that just keep coming and coming and coming, before anyone votes no or opposes it simply because it says go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Testman.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Testman. I'm going to vote against this, and I'm not voting against it because it has the word gun in it. I'm voting against it, and I may seem a little repetitious, but I take the same platform every time this comes to the floor. And it is not taking away the Second Amendment, we're not taking away the rights of people to own guns. What we're doing is, or what the state is doing is, we're just putting out more requirements for people. I mean, when cars started, people could drive a car without a driver's license. Today, people have to take tests for driver's license. You have to get a permit, you have to learn how to drive, there are all kinds of regulations. They change all the time, they update for good reasons, with accidents and so on. My nephew, who wanted to drive a boat on vacation last summer, was not 16 years old, he was 15. Well, he had to take a course, he had to go through a course, so, in safety. And essentially, this is what is just making the safety, increasing the safety of this, in my eyes, and that's why I'm voting against it. I'm not going to argue the point for your reasons, but I just want to make it clear that this is not voting against the Second Amendment, and it's not taking away an individual's right to own a gun. That it's still there, it is intact, it is preserved, and it is protected by the government.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please respond.
if I would. It's funny you compare gun ownership to a driver's license. In some sense, I agree. We have to be tested. The test that that we take and pass for a driver's license to drive in the state of New York is to make sure we understand vehicle traffic law. We understand vehicle traffic law, we understand the rules, we understand the regulations. We take our first test. It's called a driver's learning permit. When you walk out of the DMV with that driver's learning permit, you have the legal ability to drive that car, to practice, to get to get efficient, to understand what all those rules and regulations went. Our first test for driving in the state of New York is a written test to understand rules and regulations. When it comes time to the ability to practice and be efficient and be safe and be more secure and understand everyone's responsibility, that is permitted through a driver's permit, where we leave with a handwritten piece of paper after taking a handwritten test, and we're allowed to go out on the road and practice driving skills. So in a sense, I understand and I can appreciate your comparison, but think about that as well. We're allowed to go out and drive on the road after passing a very simple 20-word question. We study the rules and regulations. We're allowed to go out on a temporary basis under a driver's learning permit, so we can practice and become efficient. To stop someone ahead of time from becoming efficient and practicing and understand the safety, to restrict that portion of it, I just have a hard time comparing the two. But I appreciate your input.
Thank you, Legislator Tesman.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Grimm.
I'm sorry you found it amusing that I use that as a comparison, Mr. Tessman, but what I was doing is I was just using that as an example. I mean, there are all kinds of requirements in society for anything we do, doctors and nurses, any kind of profession. These things change over time, and they change over time to bring us more safety and to decrease liability. And I was just using a driver's license as an example, but there are many different things in society that are constantly evolving and changing, and they're changing for the protection and for the greater good of society. That's how I see this. So I'm sorry that you thought that was...
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Anyone else? I would just say that I find adding more tests is just going to be another deterrent from stopping people from wanting to bear arms. And it does appear to me that there is a group of people that are trying to take away the opportunity for us to bear arms. And for as far as taking tests go, yeah, it's a test to be proficient, and nobody buys a gun or should be buying a gun or be allowed to to do harm for anybody with a gun, but that's not the case this as well. Call the roll.
Mr. Bailey?
Somebody want to say something?
Yes, Mr. Mark, Fleming, I'd like to say that.
Okay.
I was going to say until you said you agree with Mr. Tester fully, and you have a long statement. At the beginning, he said that it was executive order, said it was passed by the New York State Secretary of 2008. At that time, he said that that's next day, June 15th, by the Democratic Controlled Assembly, and it's on further thereafter, the bipartisan effort. And I don't agree with that statement. I also don't agree with some things that he stated as facts that are opinion. And the one really kind of interesting when he says God given right. I don't know God. We all believe in God and maybe. I don't know God he prays, but I don't believe the right to bear arms is God given. There was, and therefore I don't agree with Mr. Teston.
Thank you. Any other?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just have one question. For a fee resolution, is it customary to take a roll call vote?
No.
We don't,
Answer that.
That's,
If any of you wish to have a roll call vote, it could be asked for. But did you misspeak, Mr. Chairman?
yeah, I just misspoke. Yeah, I just, everybody had something to say, so I thought, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
have a statement, please?
Please. Mr. Pateri.
The question I have is this. When you're 15 and 16 and you want to get a hunting license, you get a hunting license. You pass a hunter safety course and you buy a gun. Even if all that comes true, to fruition, the way the governor wants it, now he's got to buy $1 million worth of liability insurance. Where is a 15 or 16-year-old going to get $1 million worth of liability insurance? How's he going to afford it? All we're doing here is making this a money grab. First, we're making everybody buy a license, a hunting license, before they buy a gun. Second, we're going to make all the insurance lobby people happy, very happy, because they're going to have to buy $1 million worth of insurance. This is too much. This is all. We have a shooting program at Hoosick Falls Central School, run perfectly. Safety is the #1 issue, and also is not in this particular resolution because it didn't get put in there. They're trying to stop all shooting and training programs in New York State schools. Where's the best place to learn how to shoot is by professionals at a young age. It's a safety. And no, they're trying to outlaw that also. We are letting them take a little bit each time, chipping at it, until they're going to take it all. You could use the guise of safety for the populace. You want safety? Let the people learn how to do it the right way. Don't try to pass laws so nobody can own a gun. Thank you.
Anybody further? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
11 ayes, 6 noes.
I saw 4 up there, but, okay, 6.
Yeah, we got them done here too.
Motion passed and carried. P 24020.
G 23920, resolution authorizing acceptance of funds from the Public Health and Social Services
Oh,
Emergency
sorry,
Fund and amending the
239.
2020 Rensselaer County Adopted Budget, Van Rensselaer Manor, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. Now we'll try G 24020.
G 24020, resolution amending a contract for design and construction phase services for the miscellaneous plant improvements and aeration system upgrade projects, Rensselaer County, Sewer District Number 1, introduced by Chairman Stammel.
On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
17 ayes.
So moved. G, 24120.
G 24120, resolution authorizing acceptance of funds from the United States Department of Justice and amending the 2020 Rensselaer County budget.
I'll make a motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
legislative privilege.
Okay, legislative privilege, okay.
I believe I need to make a statement on behalf of many people in this county who are finding that our county executive, with his Steve and Mary Fran show, is acting in a very divisive manner.
Really?
He's making his own rules, he doesn't have authority to do that. He is disregarding the authority figure of the governor, become very clear. At first, when he started his daily briefing, and I would listen to the governor, and then I would listen to the county executive, and I thought it was a great idea, and he was bringing in experts in certain fields. But these last few weeks have been embarrassing. He's on a roll. I don't know how we stop that, but he does not speak for the entire county. And if we're trying, as we were just talking about, improving safety and decreasing liability, and being aware that along the way, lots of changes have been made dealing with COVID. The masks are an example. I remember saying in the very beginning of this situation that masks are a good idea, or some kind of face covering. Because I said it, the county executive said, oh no, we don't need that, or they're saved for frontline workers. Okay, well you can make your own even back then. The idea of a mask is to prevent people from touching their faces, and that anyone in the medical profession will tell you that. They'll also tell you that you wouldn't want to have surgery without a surgeon wearing a mask. So I've listened to him lately talk about masks as if they're not good. I happen to have a 95, which is great, but any other kind of mask is helpful. And I don't know about you, but when I have a mask on in the market, or when I'm near people, I'm more aware that we have to keep some kind of social distance. There have been occasions where I'm with people and I'm their family and I know them well, and early on, I was too close to them because I didn't have a mask on. And some of those individuals had underlying health issues. So masks are one example of where our county executive plays it down. I did thank Mary Fran for trying to speak up when that happens and say, no, masks are not the end, be all, end all. And they're not a substitute for social distancing or washing your hands or keeping your hands away from your face, but they're an addition to. And we've learned that along the way. We've learned lots of things along the way about this disease. And so change has occurred and we're going with it. The governor has made rules about reopening. And to hear our county executive get up and say, open up everybody, we're going to defy what the governor said. Don't we open ourselves up for a little liability? And believe me, I agree with a lot of what the county executive says. We can have Walmart and Target and Price Chopper. We can have all these markets open because they sell food or necessary items. And we have small businesses that sell some of those same things. I do agree. But we can't be breaking rules in this county. I feel very strongly about that. And I've had a number of telephone calls from people. I know that Steve has his following because I'm watching on Facebook Live. And they think he's doing a great job because he's disagreeing with the governor. But it makes us look like, I feel embarrassed. We're divisive. We are playing a political game in this county. I don't know what we can do about it. I hope the message goes to him. But he can certainly tone things down. We want the truth, and the truth has been explained each day, but we don't have to try to tear down another elected official. I just thought I should say something. I want it on the record. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Is there anything else? I would just like to say that I myself worked with Steve on some of these afternoon programs that he was on, and I know he's answering the questions of the public. When you talk about parity, I mean, the parity is that there are a lot of stores that are open and there's a lot that aren't. We're having problems right at the top that should have listened to the people more so, and the governor, in my opinion anyway, lots of times is not listening to what the people are saying. Steve is listening to the public. You and I listen to the public a lot. They may not like the tone that he's using, but the message that he's bringing is, hey, let's move things along. If we're going to have a successful budget this year and one going into next year here in Rensselaer County, we need to get businesses up and running, you know, and we've been pleading for that. I have tons of residents that are asking me about summer camp programs for their kids who can't go to summer camp because the restrictions on school buses for kids to get on a bus is cut in half or less, where CDTA can have a bus full of people and drive down the middle of the street. Where's the parity there? Who are we hurting? We're hurting the kids in our county who aren't going to be able to go to camps, have summer camps, things that they've been looking forward to all year long and benefit from. So I look at Steve's message, so he may be able to use a more civil tone, if that's what you're saying. It's the message that he's bringing across. And if the governor doesn't want to listen to the message or isn't hearing the message, he's got to hear it from Steve, or somebody else will stand up and do that. And I do appreciate you saying that what it may make us look as a county if somebody is appalled by what he says. But I know his heart is in the right place and doing the best thing for us here in Rensselaer County.
And